Barry Lyga's Boy Toy tells the heart-wrenching story of Joshua Mendel, a young boy who fell victim of sexual molestation at age 12. Evelyn Sherman was Josh's 7th grade history teacher and had a past of preying on her young and innocent students. For Eve, the nickname she preferred Josh to use, Josh was her next victim. Through manipulation and lies, Eve convinced both her husband and Josh's parents that it was necessary that Josh spend time with her every day after school in order to complete her graduate school project. Neither her husband nor Joshua's parents caught on to Eve's scheme for months. Eventually, Josh unintentionally gave away what was going on between himself and his 24-year-old girlfriend. Josh was reluctant to get Eve in any trouble with the law and refused to divulge any information about their relationship. Luckily for the sanity of Joshua's parents and those concerned in the community, Eve eventually decided to plead guilty and was sentenced to 15 years in prison. While Eve spent her time behind bars meeting with therapists and helping fellow inmates to read, prepubescent Josh was left distraught and emotionally damaged. His parents' marriage was falling apart, and Josh felt the need to isolate himself from everyone aside from his best friend, Zick. His new focus became getting straight A's, baseball, and avoiding talking about Eve. Up until his senior year, Josh was excelling in each of these departments, but then Eve was released from jail, causing Josh's world to crumble around him. To the dismay of Josh, his parents, and many others, Eve was freed after serving less than 5 years of her total 15-year sentence. After spending months of being paranoid that he would eventually run into his old history teacher, Josh decided to track down Eve to meet with her. In their intensely uncomfortable rendezvous, it is revealed that Josh genuinely believes he is to blame for his own child molestation. In addition, the reader gets true insight on just how poorly Josh's parents dealt with this situation. They never took the time to express to Josh that he was the victim of child molestation. Josh later finds out that his parents planned to divorce due to their lack of love and compassion for each other, in addition to his mother's affair that has been going on for years. The story commences, and the reader is left with a feeling of hope for Josh's life. A successful future is not necessarily concrete for him, and mentally he is still damaged. But with an open mind and willingness to work through his emotional scars, Josh has a chance at making a better life for himself in college. In order to have a relationship with Josh, Eve had meticulously strategized a plan of attack to make Josh attracted to her, get a lot of alone time with him, and avoid getting caught by his parents or her husband. Her strategy to achieve her goal took a lot of preparation and commitment, much like the steps one has to take when going on a fishing trip. The first step when going fishing is the prep work. Before going fishing, fishermen have to prep their poles and collect bait suitable for the type of fish they are trying to catch that day. This relates to Eve because she too laid groundwork to make her plan a successful one. Mrs. Sherman was experienced in seducing young men, and she knew that she was attractive and used that to her advantage. She wore tight clothes to attract Josh and made him feel like an adult to get him to enjoy spending time with her. Once she understood that Josh had a crush on her, she then lured him in by making him feel important by creating a fake grad school project. Soon after, she tricked him into thinking that he found a pornographic film by accident in her DVD player, when in fact she planted it there for him to find. This not only confused Josh, but gave Eve the edge she needed over him. She dangled the thought of intercourse in front of him and waited for him to desire it with her. Josh can be seen as a fish taking the bait in this particular situation because he had no idea that he was being lured into this woman's scheme. When fish are swimming in lakes or in the ocean, they aren't aware that soon after biting down on the bait, they will be pulled out of their home and brought into the hands of a person. Because Josh was only 12 years old, he didn't know what was happening, and his innocence blinded him from seeing that he was being taken advantage of. Furthermore, fishermen must be very committed if they hope to catch any fish. They have to wake up extremely early, as in 4 a.m., and devote much, if not all, of their day to this single task. They must commit to one spot and wait for hours in the hopes that a fish will bite at the bait they are dangling. This parallels the commitment that Eve had to attracting and keeping Josh. When Eve decides to attempt a plan to molest Josh, she commits herself entirely, devoting almost all of her time and thoughts to this, along with risking everything she has. She formulated a plan specifically enticing to Josh, a young and intelligent boy, by lying to him and telling him she needed him for her graduate project. After Josh and her became involved, she then did everything in her power to keep him interested. She let him play Xbox as much as he wanted after they had intercourse, constantly kept in contact with him even when he didn't have a cell phone to talk on, spent hours with him every day after school, and repeatedly lied to Josh's parents. She understood the repercussions that would ensue if anyone found out about their relationship, but she committed to it anyway. Lastly, once getting out on the water and prepping your fishing rod, finally comes the time when you catch the fish. When fishermen get a fish on their hook, this gives them the power they need to control the fish, reel them in, and capture them. In Boy Toy, this is when Mrs. Sherman gives Josh oral sex for the first time. Josh had never experienced this before, and he didn't know if it was even possible for him to feel such an intense moment of pleasure. This moment supplied Eve with large amounts of power over Josh, and it was at this point that Eve and the reader understand that Josh would never think of ending their relationship. Unfortunately for Josh, he suffered and continues to suffer mental damage caused by this experience. Stories like this show how easy it is for children to be taken advantage of. Some people, like Eve, are prepared to devote time and energy in order to fulfill their sick desires and wants. And for someone who has done this sort of thing before, sexually molesting a child is no big deal. In fact, it is just as simple as going fishing.